Dann würde ich mal sagen, auf zur nächsten Location. Wir haben ja noch die Kathedrale vor uns. So, wo sind wir denn jetzt hier gelandet?
Flags of the world are displayed from the upper story. A promotion of the universal harmony, no doubt.
Mhm.
The chancel of St. Louis Cathedral consists of a raised dais, an altar, 2 pedestals, and a choir area. St. Louis Cathedral has a beautiful chapel, warm with tones of gold and cream and rich with delicate frescoes and meticulously carved wood. Rows of pews line each side of the nave's aisle.
Okay. Was ist hier? Kann ich das öffnen? Ach, ein Beichtstuhl, ja?
A meshed window provides access to the confessional from the...
May I help you, my child?
Hilfe. Ja, würdest du mich bitte segnen?
Could you give me a blessing?
Do you feel the need for a blessing, son?
You wouldn't
No.
believe me if I told you.
All right, if it will comfort you.
The priest blesses Gabriel through the confessional window.
Peace be with you, son.
Thank you, Father.
Okay, danke schön.
It's a cushion kneeler. There's a small shelf under the meshed window.
Kann ich das öffnen?
The panel behind the mesh window moves from the other side.
Okay. Kann ich auf... Warte mal, hier? Ach so, das ist ein... Ach, okay, also er sitzt dann in der Mitte. Komm ich da
Gabriel
rein?
cannot go in there. That's the priest part of the confessionals.
Okay, okay.
The chancel of St. Louis Cathedral consists of a raised dais, an altar, 2 pedestals, and a choir area.
Nee, kann ich da irgendwie hin? Nein? Okay. Was ist denn hier?
There's an inconspicuous door near the chancel.
Dann öffne die doch mal. Ach, das ist... Okay, der Priesterraum.
It's a picture of Christ.
Hm?
A crucifix adorns the wall.
Warte mal, vielleicht können wir das noch gebrauchen? Also
The
mitnehmen?
crucifix might come in handy. But Gabriel does not feel guilt-free enough to wield it.
Ja.
A padded red bench provides seating. Green candles. Could that mean something?
Probably not.
Ja, aber komm, grüne Kerzen sind schon ein bisschen merkwürdig.
Gabriel does not need any wax candles.
Okay, okay, okay. Die Bücher?
Appropriately sacred books are laid out on the table. The vase adds a nice touch.
I love my hair.
Ach, Gabriel.
Green candles.
Ja, okay,
Aber
das
na.
hatten wir. Was ist das
The
denn?
closet shelves are stocked with the odds and ends of a saintly life. In other words, nothing Gabriel is familiar with. Long ceremonial robes hang in the closet. Long ceremonial robes hang in the closet. A freshly starched black priest's shirt stands out against the white robes in the closet. The closet shelves are stocked with the odds and ends of a saintly life. In other words, nothing Gabriel is familiar with.
Okay, kann ich das mitnehmen? Jo.
I can't resist black.
Ja, natürlich. Das merkt man ja an deinem Mantel.
The closet shelves are stocked with the odds and ends of a saintly life. In other words, nothing Gabriel is...
Okay, das kennen wir. Was hat er denn da jetzt eingepackt? Hier, okay.
It's a priest's shirt.
Okay.
The closet shelves are stocked with the odds and ends of... In other words, the closet shelves... In other words,
Okay, das kennen wir.
there's a box of white priest's collars in the closet.
Hm?
The closet shelves are stocked with... In other...
Okay, das kennen wir. Ja, so ein weißer Kragen wäre ja auch nicht verkehrt.
Well, you never know when a priest's collar will come in handy.
So, kann ich jetzt den Kragen mit dem Hemd... Ach so, das ist schon drin. Gut. Was haben wir denn hier?
The small nook must be used...
Nichts, okay. Warte mal, wenn ich jetzt das Hemd anziehe,
This is...
geht das?
There's no reason to wear that at the moment.
Ja, doch, ich dachte mir, dass ich mich dann vielleicht da reinsetzen kann, warum auch immer. Ausgang, Ausgang, Ausgang? Ah, okay. Ja, dann sind wir da wohl auch durch. Dann haben wir eigentlich gerade nichts mehr, wo wir noch hin müssten. Das heißt... Ja, dann gehe ich erstmal zurück zur Buchhandlung.
Lucy, I'm home.
Really?
Was
I
war das
forgot you
denn?
were gone.
Okay. Grace. Hast du vielleicht neue Nachrichten?
Got a minute, Grace?
What's up?
Nachrichten?
Do you have messages for me?
Nope. None right now.
Okay. Ja. Warte mal, kann ich vielleicht ihr das hier geben, dass sie sich das mal anschaut?
Do you know anything about this?
No, sorry.
Okay. Brief, das macht alles keinen Sinn. Die Schuppe?
Do you know anything about this?
No, sorry.
Got a minute, Grace?
What's up?
Could you
Nachforschung.
do some research for me?
Sure, what?
Ja, Malia Gede.
Could you see what you can find out about a woman named Malia Getty?
The name Getty sounds familiar. What's your interest in her?
Oh, just, stuff about the voodoo murders. If you could get an address...
The murders. Right. I'll see what I can find out. Anything else?
Nö, eigentlich
I
nicht.
can't think of anything.
Okay.
Schlangen.
Do you know anything about snakes?
Doing a family tree, Gabriel?
Very funny. I mean real snakes. Scaly, cold-blooded. I would have thought you'd find them empathetic.
Diese Bälle, die hin und her
I know
geworfen
very
werden.
little about reptiles of any kind and prefer to keep it that way. I think there's a book on snakes around here somewhere, though.
Okay, thanks.
Ja gut, dieses Buch hatten wir ja schon gelesen. Kann sie damit vielleicht was
Do you
anfangen?
know what caprice encore means?
No. Sounds French, though.
Ja, Schattenjäger?
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
No. Is that a voodoo word?
I don't think so. It's German.
No, but it has a nice ring, doesn't it? Schottenjäger.
Schattenjäger. Nee, okay.
Well... It's about closing time.
So
Okay.
it is. Good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gabriel. And try not to dream, okay?
Ja, dann haben wir wohl, würde ich sagen, den ersten Tag hinter uns gebracht. Zweiter Tag. Maskiert erreichte ich den Ort, war nicht mehr der ich bin, auch wenn das Muster Schemen war, so schien mir... Ich glaube, wie gesagt, oder was stand da noch? Hallo Gracie.
Good morning. Don't you look swell today? Actually, swollen.
Oh,
So have some. There's a fresh pot on the table.
Da hat er wohl wieder schlecht geträumt.
Seriously, you look like hell. Your hair is sticking straight up like a... Oh, it always does that. Never mind.
ha, ha.
Did you dream about the fire and the hang guy and that lion thing last night?
Leopard, not lion. Did you get anything on Malia Getty?
Well, I did get her address, but you're a little out of your league here, big fella. The Gettys own 3 local hospitals, just to name a few of their assets. They run in very high circles.
Did you get an address?
Oha.
I got the address. I suppose this has nothing to do with the fact that Malia Getty is incredibly gorgeous. I should have known you wouldn't go for a rich, ugly socialite.
And that address is...
Hey! Far be it from me to postpone your total humiliation. It's 557 West Ingram. That's a garden district, a state city.
That's all I wanted to know. And yes, my dear, Malia Getty is the most dangerous-looking diversion I've ever seen. Ouch!
Oy, men.
Eieiei. Aber schön, wie die sich auch immer hier gegenseitig die Bälle zuwerfen. Das ist schon echt gut. Ja, also, zweiter Tag. Dann würde ich sagen, schauen wir erstmal in die Zeitung.
Times Picayune, dated June 19, 1993. A front-page article describes the most recent of the Voodoo murders. Gabriel scans it but learns nothing new. The article reiterates that the voodoo aspect of the crimes is fake. Gabriel shivers. It looked real enough to him. Elsewhere, there's an article about the history of Jackson Square, called La Plaza d'Armas. Under French rule, it was used for executions, firing squads, hanging, even impalement and breaking on the wheel. Yikes! Of course, these days it's mostly a hangout for tourists, street musicians and local artists. Gabriel also scans the Aquarius horoscope for the day. Chances of a dark star rising on this day. Do not trust your instincts.
I feel a dark star rising, all right.
Ja, dann würde ich mal sagen, schwingen wir uns auf unseren Feuerstuhl und fahren mal zu der Getty.
I'm going out.
Have fun.
Wo ist sie denn? Ah ja. Schönes Haus. Kann man
The
hier
huge
irgendwas...
trees bear beards of Spanish moss. Potted roses mark the entrance to the house.
Kann ich mir vielleicht ein Blümchen für sie pflücken?
Gabriel didn't come here to mess with the plants.
Oh, ja gut, dann nicht. Öffne Tür.
Gabriel can't get inside unless he's invited.
So, ja, dann benutze Tür.
Gabriel can't get inside unless he's invited.
Ah, Türklopfer. Okay.
May I help you?
Ja, ich würde gerne Miss Getty sehen, bitte.
I'd like to see Malia Getty, please. I'm sorry, but unless you have an appointment or official business, I cannot announce you.
Zeitschriftenabos.
I have a fine selection of magazine subscriptions for sale. We do not welcome solicitors.
Oh. Hey, warte mal.
May I help you?
Ah? Dienstlich?
I do have official business. Really? Please tell me the nature of your business.
So. Tja. Ich habe ein Foto von einem Polizisten.
Does this do anything for you? No, it does not, sir.
Ja, okay, nee, das hat keinen Sinn.
Just as I thought. A good day, sir.
Können wir vielleicht hier hinten rum?
This is private property. Gabriel should stay near the front door until invited to do otherwise.
Durch das Fenster
The
schauen?
windows are made of thick, heavy glass. The only thing Gabriel can see inside is even thicker drapery.
Ja, okay, das heißt... Ja, hier kommen wir nicht weiter. Das... Ja, hat ja wenig Sinn jetzt. Wo könnten wir denn noch hin? Wir könnten eigentlich noch mal zu dem Voodoo-Museum, weil gestern war ja nur die Aushilfe da und heute müsste ja eigentlich dieser Professor da sein. Das hatte sie uns ja gesagt. Also die Aushilfe. Vielleicht hat der ja noch ein paar Antworten. Voodoo-Museum.
Welcome, my friend.
Hello.
I am the proprietor, Dr. John. If you have any questions, I will be happy to assist.
Great. My name is Knight, and I'll probably take you up on that.
Ja gut, hier haben wir uns ja schon umgesehen, das müssen wir ja nicht nochmal machen.
Dr. John is a huge man. If his manner weren't so pleasant, he'd be intimidating.
Und dann reden wir mal mit ihm.
Could I ask you some questions?
That is why I am here.
So, was kannst du mir denn über Voodoo erzählen?
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Historical voodoo? Or the voodoo currently practiced in the city?
Ja, gute Frage, ich weiß nicht. Eigentlich beides.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
Historical voodoo?
Achso, okay, das haben wir schon. Die
What do
Voodoo-Morde.
you know about the voodoo murders?
The killings in the newspaper? I know that they have nothing to do with true voodoo in New Orleans.
Und warum? Wie kommst du da drauf?
What makes you think the voodoo murders aren't being done by local practitioners?
Voodoo is a popular boogeyman, Mr. Knight, especially in New Orleans. Anyone can pretend to use it, just as anyone can pretend to be a black belt in karate, and for the same reason, to intimidate. I know voodoo in this city, Mr. Knight, and believe me, it is not about killing. Even the police have stated that the killings have nothing to do with local voodoo.
Ja, okay. Was kannst du mir denn über New Orleans sagen?
What do you think of New Orleans?
It is the only city in the United States as far as I am concerned.
Okay.
What is it about New Orleans that you so admire?
It has a real culture of its own, Mr. Knight, amid the horrid blandness that is Americana. New Orleans alone has a voice.
Spoken like a true New Orleanian. Do you
Schlangen?
know anything about snakes?
Ah, you have perhaps noticed the museum's snake, Mr.
Oh
Knight.
ja. Ja, die
They
habe ich
are
gesehen.
beautiful creatures, do you not agree? And the tourists seem to associate them with voodoo.
Okay.
Is the snake yours? Do you use it in your practice of voodoo?
I admire the spirit of this snake, Mr. Knight, but snakes like the museums can be quite dangerous to handle.
You didn't really answer my question.
I think I did, Mr. Knight.
I'd really like to know more about your snake.
There is really nothing more to say, Mr. Knight.
Na gut. Was kannst du mir denn über die Johannesnacht sagen?
What can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
It is one of the important ceremonial nights in voodoo.
Ja, okay. Und sonst?
What else can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
I am afraid I do not know the origins of St. John's Eve. I only know that it was a night of ritual long before voodoo came to New Orleans.
What else can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
I am afraid I have little else to say about that subject.
Na gut. Was kannst du mir über Cabri Saint-Cor sagen?
Do you have any idea what Cabri Saint-Cor means?
I fear my French is not all it should be, Mr. Knight.
Schattenjäger?
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
No, I have not.
Okay, was kannst du mir denn über dich selber
Tell
sagen?
me about yourself.
Me?
Yes, if you don't mind.
What is it you wish to learn?
Weshalb hast du ein Voodoo-Museum eröffnet?
Why did you open a voodoo museum?
The subject has fascinated me all my life, and I wanted to help preserve the cultural heritage it represents.
Hm? Welches Wissen über Voodoo haben Sie?
What kind of background in voodoo do you have?
Let us say that I cut my teeth on it, Mr. Knight. It is in my blood.
Ah, also eine Koryphäe auf dem Gebiet des Voodoo, alles klar. Was machen Sie noch außer dem Museum?
Do you do anything besides run the museum?
No. The museum does not make me a rich man, but my material needs are simple. I prefer to focus on my one true interest in life.
Und welche Religion glaubst du?
What are your own religious beliefs?
My beliefs are too personal and too complex to discuss with a layman, Mr. Knight.
Na gut, erzähl mir einfach
Just tell
irgendwas.
me anything.
I am originally from the West Indies myself, you know.
Really? What brought you to New Orleans?
I was drawn here for personal reasons.
Just tell me anything.
I am a vegetarian.
Really? I can't imagine living without meat.
Fleisch?
That must be the
Mit CH
hunter in
geschrieben?
you, Mr. Knight.
Ja, das wird wohl zu nichts
Actually, I
führen.
can't think of a thing.
Then, let us discuss something else.
Also er gibt ja nicht allzu viele Antworten. Für das er eine Koryphäe ist, hält er sich ja ziemlich bedeckt. Die Geschichte des Voodoo.
Tell me about historical voodoo.
Very well. I will start at the beginning, Mr. Knight, and will go on from there at your prompting.
Sounds good.
As you may know, Voodoo is a grassroots religion formed by the mixing together of many different African tribal religions and Anglo religions, such as Catholicism or Protestantism. In other words, it is a religion born of the African slave trade. But African slaves were imported not only by the United States, but also into the West Indies, where the French and Spanish ran plantation islands. Prior to 1803, The New Orleans area was owned by France. The French Creole in those days owned many African slaves. But the Creole did not permit their slaves to gather, giving no chance for voodoo to breed here natively.
The Creole also knew enough about the corrupted pagan practices of the West Indies slaves to ban the importing of slaves from that region.
Okay.
So, how did voodoo come to New Orleans?
After the Louisiana Purchase, American legislators relaxed regulations. Slaves were permitted to gather. The Americans also removed the ban on West Indies slaves.
Around the same time, a slave revolt occurred in Santo Domingo, what is now Haiti. Between the lifting of the ban and the Haitian revolt, West Indies slaves began pouring into New Orleans.
Some of them were free people of color, freed or escaped slaves. Some came with their white owners who were fleeing from the revolt.
Ja, das ist ja alles sehr interessant, wie sich das so entwickelt hat mit Voodoo und also mit diesem ganzen Glauben, mit der Unterdrückung, mit diesem gesamten, also mit diesen verschiedenen Kulturen, die sich zusammengemischt haben, aber dafür ist New Orleans ja auch ziemlich bekannt, also dass da ein ziemlich großer Mischmasch ist und ja, das ist ja ziemlich interessant. Mal gucken, was er noch zu sagen hat.
What happened when the West Indies slaves got here?
They brought voodoo with them. The native slaves were more than enthusiastic about embracing it. It gave them power, Mr. Knight, if only in the form of a communal bond. Among the first meeting places were the Bayou Saint John and the shore of Lake Pontchartrain. The early voodoos were heavy snake worshippers, worshipping the one they called the Great Zombie.
Also an dem See, wo wir eben waren, wo halt das Mordopfer war, da haben die wohl auch ihre Sachen abgehalten. Aha.
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
By 1817, the voodoo activities were beginning to cause fear among the white slave owners. An ordinance was passed to forbid slave gatherings except in designated public areas at designated times. The time was Sunday afternoons and the place, Congo Square. The slaves and free people of color gathered to dance simulations of their voodoo dances right in sight of Creole society. Of course, they also continued to meet in private for the real thing.
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
There were a variety of kings and queens at first, voodoo priests and priestesses. But from about 1830, a single power emerged. This was a voodoo queen named Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau ruled voodoo in New Orleans for many years.
Ja, das scheint ja schon mal sehr interessant zu sein. Also, auch wie das Ganze mit dem Voodoo entstanden ist, ist ja sehr interessant mit diesem Zusammenmischen und aus der Unterdrückung entstanden. Hast du noch was zu sagen?
Tell me more about historical voodoo.
I've given you as much detail as I can, Mr. Knight. Look around the museum if you desire more information.
Okay, also der weiß ja echt eine Menge über Voodoo, also. Und dann will der mir erzählen, dass der nichts über die Voodoo-Morde oder das, was gerade da in New Orleans abgeht, dass der darüber nicht Bescheid weiß? Ich weiß ja nicht.
Tell me about current voodoo.
Many people think of voodoo in terms of magic spells or gree-gree. That kind of practice is actually called hoodoo and is only a part of true voodoo. Voodoo, the religion, has a strong following in New Orleans. In fact, it is growing quite rapidly. There are several voodoo churches or temples in the city, and others all across the United States. African Americans see it as a tradition all their own. Whites, and there are many in their religion, are attracted to it because they think it is exotic. I, personally, am more interested in the history of voodoo. Some of the new movements are copying Haitian or even African voodoo. But it is the voodoo of New Orleans that I find so intriguing.
Tell me more about current voodoo.
There are many voodooans in New Orleans. They often do business selling gree-gree, telling fortunes, providing luck, and, occasionally, misfortune. Perhaps you would like to meet a voodooan. We refer those who seek a deeper experience with voodoo to a local practitioner, Magentia Moonbeam.
Sure, I'd love to meet her.
She lives on the corner of Orleans and Dauphine. I will call her and tell her you might stop by.
Great, thanks.
Ah, okay.
Tell me more about current voodoo.
You have tapped my resources. My expertise is really historical. Perhaps Ms. Moonbeam can be of further help.
Okay, aber du kannst mir doch vielleicht noch was über Voodoo erzählen, oder?
Is there anything else I should know about voodoo?
Not if your interest is primarily in voodoo. Hoodoo is of interest to those who study rural folk traditions, but it will not aid you in understanding true voodoo.
Is there anything else I should know about voodoo?
Not if your interest is primarily in voodoo. Hoodoo is of interest to those who study rural folk traditions, but it will not aid you in understanding true voodoo.
Okay, ja, dann denke ich, haben wir die Dialoge bei ihm durch. Oder? Nee, hier ist noch.
Tell me more about Marie Laveau.
There were actually two Marie Laveaux, mother and daughter. Most people thought they were the same woman. Her continued youth added to the mystique. The original, the mother, was also known as Widow Paris. It was she that began the empire. When the Widow Paris began to practice, there were many voodooans in the city. By 1830, she was voodoo queen of all New Orleans.
Ja gut, ich denke, das war's bei ihm. So, jetzt haben wir ja zwei Hinweise bekommen. Einmal die Marie Laveau und einmal, dass wir zu dieser Moonbeam da gehen sollen. Ich würde aber jetzt am liebsten erstmal ein bisschen mehr über die Marie Laveau rauskriegen. Und da würde ich sagen, also da habe ich halt direkt schon, als ich mit ihm da hier drüber gesprochen habe, habe ich schon direkt daran gedacht, dass da natürlich der Friedhof sehr interessant sein könnte. Und ja, da würde ich jetzt eigentlich gerne mal hin.
I'll be going.
Come back again.